Well, that is a perspective coming to us from the other side of the world. Well, with me now here in the studio in Glasgow is Laura Young. She's a climate activist and environmental scientist, and she's from Glasgow as well. A very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us here in the studio. I just want to start, before we get into all the energy side of things, what's it like to be here in your city with all of this going on?
It's great. I'm so happy to welcome everyone to Glasgow. Feels a little bit strange, my little city, having the world coming to, see what's going on. The venues that COP's actually hosted in is where I went to concerts as a kid. So it feels a little bit bizarre to have this big summit, but I've been watching it being built up over the past few months, and it's great to have it finally started, and it's great to be on day 4 now and to hear all these different announcements and feel like we're making some progress even though we're just still in week 1.
So let's talk about what we're hearing today. 190 countries signing up to end the use of coal. It sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
I think it is, and I think we need to take a pause just for a moment and really celebrate that. In the lead up to this United Nations Climate Summit, coal was one of the biggest things we wanted to make a break on. We wanted to consign coal to history books. That was kind of the phrase coming up. And actually, this is landmark, this is big. And even just this year, we've had the G7, the G20, coal has been on that agenda. And so this is a real win. And I think just pausing to celebrate that for a moment is huge, because coal is the dirtiest kind of fossil fuel. It's also the single biggest contributor to the climate crisis. So really getting to grips with this now is great. We obviously still need to be critical about what's happened and look into it. But it's good to really praise that as a big moment.
Yeah, China though, I mean, we need China to come on board. Do you think perhaps, the pressure of effectively going it almost alone on this might sort of change the dynamic a little bit?
I hope so. We are on day 4 of this summit. There's plenty time for more countries to be added to this list, for more pressure to be put on. And I hope that that pressure is applied when we get more names of countries and governments signing up to this and pledging their commitment, because we do need more countries on this to be really getting to grips with it. We know that we can't have new exploration of fossil fuels past this year if we want to be reaching that 1.5 degrees. We want to keep below that. So it's great that we have all these countries, but we do need to be pushing for more from the big coal countries.
And also their timelines, right? Because, some of them, it's too late for that 1.5 degrees, isn't it, what they're planning on with their coal?
We never want to say it's too late, because we still can make it if we try. But I think the timelines that have come out of this coal announcement, we've got the 2030s for rich countries and the 2040s for some of the more developing nations. We need to be really getting strict commitments out of those years, not leaving it too loose. I think that's one of the main criticisms about this. There's a bit of leeway, a bit of vagueness coming around that. So we need to really get some critical years booked in and not leave it too open. And that's what we need to be pushing for once this announcement has come out.
Now, I know that as a little girl, you kind of grew up under the shadow of wind farms, didn't you?
I did.
So you're really conscious and aware of the use of renewables. Where do you think we are with all of that, and where are we missing a trick?
So I grew up in Glasgow. I'm from Glasgow, and 10 minutes from my doorstep, I have the UK's biggest onshore wind farm called Whiteley Wind Farm. So I grew up seeing it being built. It was a barren landscape, and now it's a wind farm. I spent most of my lockdown days going on walks around this wind farm. We need more investment in renewables here and abroad, and we know that we're going to be expecting some more announcements later on today, hopefully around this kind of thing. And I think we need more of that. And there was, a great piece on earlier about the Orkney investments in renewables, and that's the kind of thing that we need more progress on around the world as well.
What have you made of some of the protests that have been taking place around Glasgow? It's not exclusively, but it's a lot of young people, isn't it, who are saying, this is just all talk, and you guys are wasting our time, and you're wasting the planet's time.
This summit itself is kind of a story with 2 halves. You've got us inside here in the blue zone, the green zone, and some of the negotiations going around, but there are lots of people outside as well, particularly young people. This COP, not everyone made it inside the official rooms here. I'm really privileged to have a pass here with Tear Fund, the organisation I work with, but actually it's amazing to see so much going on outside of this zone. Not just protests, but fringe events and lots of other things around the arts, around science and education. Young people are also leading this because it's their future that is at stake here. You know, COP26, the one we're at now, is the 26th time these negotiations have happened. They've been going on since before I was born. The world leaders, many of them, have been discussing this, and that's why it's really urgent. The best thing I've found is that being inside here, the messages of the protests outside are getting inside. That's what's spurring this on. And a lot of the time, young people are ones who are keeping these stories in the media, and it's great to see that creativity and that real urgency coming from outside. And I'm hoping that I know that has spurred on a lot of the decisions that we're seeing coming out in the last few days.
My reflection on it, and I don't want this to sound in any way patronising, because it really isn't, is how impressed I am at how articulate many of the youth activists are. I mean, if you want to get somebody to speak passionately and compellingly about the need to take action, I mean, I can't think of anybody better than some of you young people who are really, really articulating it so well indeed. And it's incredible, isn't it, to hear those voices coming out. You know, that teenage girl, young woman, I should say, who was one of the finalists of the Earthshot Prize with her ironing cart from India. So passionate, wasn't she? And just so compelling, her call to arms.
And young people totally get it. They understand the 1.5, they understand the science. They've grown up in a school system that talks about climate change throughout. This is all they've ever known about their future. They understand about climate justice, and they understand the urgency. I also just love the creativity and sometimes the nerve they've got. It's great to just see them really saying it as it is. And I think that's the refreshing voice that we need more of inside here. And I'm glad that these protests will continue on for the next few weeks, and we'll just hear more and more of these messages.
We'll be going shortly to listen to the headline event at Energy Day. We can see that people are starting to stream in and take their seats there. We're interested to get your thoughts while we wait on this inquiry into opening the coal mine in Cumbria. What do you make of that?
I think we need to be really looking at the science, looking at the 1.5, and knowing that we need to move away from all new fossil fuel extraction, and that's both domestic and international, and we really need to be leading the way in this. I know that in the end of 2020 into 2021, the UK decided to stop funding overseas fossil fuels, which was great, but we now need to be looking domestically as well, and that's a really key example of where we need to be leading the way and trying to find a solution to all the needs that we have for our energy, and that is an example of where we need to move away from.
But are you disappointed that there is even an inquiry taking place? Because you're either a country that is committed to having no more coal production, or you're not.
I think it's not as easy sometimes as black and white, but I think I am disappointed, and I hope that we can take all of these announcements that are happening around coal and hopefully around more energy days. You know, this is only the morning of Energy Day, and I hope there's more things that come out so that we don't need to be having these discussions, but we really just do see a future within the UK and globally that moves away from all fossil fuels.
When you see the Prime Minister speaking about his climate objectives, and, you know, he has his own personal style, doesn't he? But he talks about, you know, he quotes Kermit the Frog, and he talks about bunny huggers. Is that useful, do you think?
No, and I think that's why I like to listen to the young people. I like to listen to the scientists, and I like to listen to the many people that are in this room. You know, there's been amazing conversations happening even just across the 4 days here, and that's why it's great to get people who really know their stuff being able to do this helpfully, and that's why we need to get these messages out, particularly around the big Energy Day. You know, let's hopefully just get it aligned with the science, get it clear, and just get it in the black and white way that we need it.
All right, thank you very much indeed for helping liven up our coverage this morning ahead of that headline event on Day 4, Energy Day here, where we're expecting some big announcements about the phasing out of coal from the global economy. Coming up on Sky News Climate Live, we're going to have plenty more for you from the hydro here in Glasgow. The next live discussion, of course, will be all about energy and the use of coal as a source of power. We're going to bring you that and all of the analysis from our correspondents and expert guests, so stay with us.